Dr. Maya Chen stood at the observation window of the International Space Research Center, watching the sun set over the Pacific Ocean. Behind her, a dozen scientists talked in worried voices. The data on their screens showed something that should not exist. A black hole was coming toward Earth. It had appeared 3 months ago, moving faster than any known object in space. The black hole was small, about the size of a basketball, but its gravity was strong enough to destroy entire planets. In 42 days, it would reach Earth. Every country on the planet knew about it now. The news had caused panic at first, then a strange calm. People had accepted their fate. But Maya had not accepted anything. She was the lead scientist on the emergency response team, and she believed there had to be a way to save humanity. The aliens who had visited Earth last year had told them many things about the universe. Surely, somewhere in that knowledge, there was an answer. The aliens, the Vorathi, had been shocked when they first met humans. They came from a civilization that was millions of years old. They had expected to find primitive creatures on Earth. Instead, they found a species that had gone from horse-drawn carts to space stations in just 200 years. The Vorathi had taken 10,000 years to make the same progress. Maya remembered the words of Ambassador Krenth, the Vorathi leader who had spoken with world governments. He said that humans were the most surprising species the Vorathi had ever found. Humans solved problems in ways that other species could not imagine. They thought differently. They were willing to try things that seemed impossible. Now, the Vorathi had sent a message saying they were sorry. They said there was no way to stop a black hole. Their scientists had studied the problem for centuries. The gravity of a black hole could not be defeated. The best they could offer was to evacuate a small number of humans to their ships. Maybe a few thousand people could be saved. Maya turned away from the window and walked to her workstation. Her team of 12 scientists looked up at her with tired eyes. They had been working for 3 months without rest. Some of them had not seen their families in weeks. They all knew that failure meant the end of everything they loved. Dr. James Park, the team's physicist, stood up from his desk. His hair was messy and his clothes were wrinkled. He held a cup of cold coffee in his hand. "James, I need an update," Maya said. "What do we know?" James put down his coffee cup and brought up a holographic display. The black hole appeared in the air between them, a sphere of absolute darkness surrounded by a ring of light. The light was matter being pulled into the black hole and heated to incredible temperatures. "The black hole is about 1 solar mass," James said. "That means it has the same amount of matter as our sun, but compressed into a tiny space. Its event horizon is about 3 kilometers wide. Anything that crosses that boundary cannot escape, not even light." Maya nodded. She knew all of this already. "What about the trajectory? Is there any chance it will miss us?" James shook his head. "No, our calculations show it will pass within 1 million kilometers of Earth. That sounds far, but at that distance, the tidal forces will tear our planet apart. The oceans will be pulled into space. The crust will crack. It will be like watching an egg being crushed." Dr. Sarah Williams, the team's engineer, spoke up from her desk. "We have looked at every option, Maya. We cannot push the black hole away. It is too massive. We cannot destroy it. Nothing can destroy a black hole. We cannot even slow it down." Maya looked at the holographic image of the black hole. It was beautiful in a terrible way. The ring of light around it shifted through all the colors of the rainbow as matter spiraled into oblivion. Somewhere in that chaos, there had to be an answer. "What about the Vorathi technology?" Maya asked. "They have faster-than-light travel. They have weapons that can destroy stars. Surely they have something that can help." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the team's expert on alien technology, pulled up another display. "I have been in contact with their scientists," she said. "They were helpful at first, but now they seem to have given up. They keep saying that black holes are different. They say that no civilization in the galaxy has ever found a way to stop one." Maya felt anger rising in her chest. She did not believe in giving up. Her whole life she had faced problems that people said were impossible to solve. When she was a child, doctors said she would never walk because of a disease in her legs. She walked. When she was in university, professors said she was not smart enough to study physics. She got the highest grades in her class. When she applied to lead this research center, people said she was too young. She got the job anyway. The Vorathi have been around for millions of years, Maya said. In all that time they have become careful. They have learned to accept limits, but humans are not like that. We are young. We are foolish. And sometimes that foolishness saves us. The other scientists looked at her with a mix of hope and doubt. They had heard speeches like this before, but so far, no amount of determination had produced a solution. Maya walked to the main computer terminal and began typing. "I want us to think about this problem differently," she said. "The Vorathi have been trying to stop black holes by fighting against their gravity. They have been trying to push them away or destroy them. But what if we approach the problem from another direction?" "What do you mean?" James asked. Maya brought up images of old human inventions. She showed them the first airplanes, the first rockets, the first computers. "Every time humans faced a big problem, we did not just try harder," she said. "We changed the rules. The Wright brothers did not make stronger horses. They built machines that could fly. Einstein did not make better clocks. He showed that time itself could bend." Yuki leaned forward in her chair. "What rules do you want to change?" Maya smiled for the first time in weeks. "The rule that says we have to stay here and wait for the black hole to come to us. What if we move the Earth instead?" The room went silent. Sarah was the first to speak. "Move the Earth? Maya, that is insane. Earth weighs 6 trillion kilograms. You cannot just push it out of the way." Maya nodded. "I know it sounds crazy, but listen to me. We cannot stop the black hole. We cannot even slow it down, but we do not need to. We just need to not be here when it arrives." James rubbed his forehead. "Even if we could move the Earth," he said, "we would need to move it millions of kilometers. And we only have 42 days. The amount of energy required would be—" He stopped and did some calculations in his head. "It would be more energy than the sun produces in a year." Maya walked back to the holographic display of the black hole. She stared at the ring of light, watching matter fall into darkness. Then she turned to face her team with a strange look in her eyes. "What if we got the energy from the black hole itself?" she asked. The other scientists stared at her. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then James started laughing. At first it was a small laugh, but it grew until he was holding his stomach and wiping tears from his eyes. "Use the thing that is trying to kill us to save us," he said. "That is the most human idea I have ever heard." Maya smiled. "Get some rest tonight," she said. "Tomorrow we start planning how to steal energy from a black hole." The next morning, the conference room was full. Word had spread through the research center that Dr. Chen had a new idea. Scientists from every department had come to hear it. There were physicists, engineers, biologists, chemists, and even a few psychologists who studied how people behave in crisis situations. Maya stood at the front of the room with a large screen behind her. She had not slept much the night before. Instead, she had spent hours doing calculations and reading research papers. What she found gave her hope. "Thank you all for coming," Maya said. "I know many of you think this situation is hopeless. The Vorathi have told us that no civilization has ever stopped a black hole, but I want to remind you of something. Humans have done many things that were supposed to be impossible." She clicked a button, and the screen showed a list of achievements. Flight was impossible until 1903. Going to the moon was impossible until 1969. Splitting the atom was impossible until 1938. Creating vaccines for deadly diseases was impossible until we did it. An older scientist in the back of the room raised his hand. "Dr. Chen, those achievements were all within the laws of physics. Moving a planet out of the way of a black hole is on a completely different scale." Maya nodded. "You are right, Dr. Morrison. But I am not suggesting we break the laws of physics. I am suggesting we use them in a new way. She brought up an image of the black hole again. Everyone knows that black holes have incredible gravity, but there is something else about them that most people forget. Black holes also have incredible energy. James stood up and walked to the front of the room. He pointed at the ring of light around the black hole. This is called the accretion disk, he explained. It is made of matter that is falling into the black hole. As the matter falls, it speeds up and heats up. The temperature can reach millions of degrees. This process releases enormous amounts of energy. How much energy? Someone asked from the audience. James smiled. More energy than you can imagine. When matter falls into a black hole, it converts about 10% of its mass into energy. That might not sound like much, but remember what Einstein taught us. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. A single kilogram of matter falling into a black hole releases enough energy to power a large city for a year. Maya took over again. The black hole coming toward us is swallowing matter as it travels. It is eating asteroids, dust, and debris from space. All of that matter is turning into energy. Right now, that energy is just radiating out into space. What if we could capture it? Dr. Morrison shook his head. Even if we could capture some of that energy, we would need to be close to the black hole. Any equipment we send would be pulled in and destroyed. Maya had expected this objection. That is true if we use conventional technology, but the Vorathi have given us something better. She turned to Yuki. Tell them about the gravity anchors. Yuki walked to the front and brought up a technical diagram. The Vorathi use devices called gravity anchors for their mining operations, she said. These devices create an artificial gravity field that can counteract the pull of a much larger mass. They use them to extract resources from gas giants without being crushed by the planet's gravity. Can they counteract a black hole? Dr. Morrison asked. Yuki hesitated. The Vorathi say no. They say the gravity of a black hole is too strong, but I have been studying their technology and I think they are wrong. The gravity anchors work by creating a bubble of stable space around the user. The bubble does not fight the gravity directly. It just redirects it. I believe we can modify the anchors to work near a black hole if we use enough of them together. The room buzzed with conversation. People were debating whether this was possible, whether it could work, whether it was worth trying. Maya let them talk for a few minutes before calling for quiet. Here is my plan, she said. We build a network of gravity anchors and energy collectors. We send them toward the black hole using our fastest rockets. When they get close enough, the anchors activate and hold the collectors in a stable orbit. The collectors gather energy from the accretion disk. That energy is sent back to Earth using Vorathi transmission technology. And then what? Someone asked. What do we do with the energy? Sarah stood up to answer. We use it to power massive thrusters on one side of the Earth. These thrusters push the planet slowly at first, then faster as we gather more energy. By the time the black hole reaches our orbit, we will not be there. The room erupted in chaos. Some scientists were excited. Others were shouting that it was impossible. A few were already doing calculations on their tablets to see if the numbers worked out. Dr. Morrison stood up and raised his voice over the noise. Dr. Chen, even if everything you say is true, we do not have time to build this system. We have 42 days. What you are describing would normally take decades. Maya nodded. You are right. If we work the way we normally do, we will fail. But I am not asking for normal work. I am asking for a miracle, and miracles only happen when people are desperate enough to try. She looked around the room at the tired faces of her fellow scientists. In a few hours, I am going to speak with the leaders of every country on Earth. I am going to ask them to give us everything. Every factory, every resource, every person who can help. This will be the biggest project in human history, and we have less than 6 weeks to complete it. A young scientist near the front raised her hand. What if it does not work? Maya smiled sadly. If it does not work, we die trying. But at least we will die doing something instead of waiting. At least we will die like humans, fighting until the very end. The meeting ended with a strange energy in the air. It was not quite hope, but it was not despair either. It was something in between, something that only humans could feel when facing the impossible. That afternoon, Maya spoke to the United Nations. She presented her plan in clear, simple terms. She did not promise success. She only promised effort. When she finished, the vote was unanimous. Every nation agreed to contribute whatever was needed. By the next day, factories around the world were changing their production. Car factories started making rocket parts. Electronics companies started building energy collectors. Millions of people who had been waiting to die suddenly had something to do. The Vorathi watched from their ships in orbit. They did not understand what the humans were doing. When they asked, Maya sent them a simple message. "We are fighting back," she said. "You can help us or you can watch. Either way, we are not giving up." Ambassador Krenth received the message on the bridge of his ship. He read it 3 times before responding. He had seen many species face extinction. Most of them accepted their fate quietly. Some of them fought briefly before giving up. But he had never seen a species respond like this. "We will help," he said. "We do not believe you can succeed, but we admire your courage. And perhaps we have become too old and too careful. Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to fight against the impossible." The clock was ticking. 41 days remained until the black hole reached Earth. And for the first time since the threat was discovered, humanity was working together on a single goal. The question was whether 41 days would be enough. Day 31. 11 days remained until the black hole arrived. The project had a name now. Operation Phoenix. People called it that because the phoenix was a mythical bird that could survive fire and be reborn from ashes. It seemed fitting for a plan that would either save humanity or watch it burn. Maya stood in the control center of the largest launch facility ever built. It had been constructed in the Arizona desert in just 2 weeks. Workers from 50 countries had labored day and night, sleeping in shifts, driven by fear and hope in equal measure. Behind her, rows of technicians monitored screens showing every aspect of the operation. "We are ready for the first launch," Sarah said. "The rockets are loaded with gravity anchors and energy collectors. The guidance systems are programmed. We can send them to the black hole within the hour." Maya nodded. She felt the weight of 8 billion lives on her shoulders. If this failed, there would be no second chance. "How many rockets do we have?" Sarah checked her tablet. 243 are ready now. Another 100 will be ready by tomorrow. The factories are producing components faster than we expected. James walked over from his workstation. He looked exhausted but alert. His calculations filled 3 tablets that he carried everywhere. "I have run the numbers again," he said. "If we can get at least 150 collectors into stable orbit around the black hole, we will generate enough energy to move the Earth. But it will be close. We need to start the thrusters in 8 days to have any chance of moving far enough." 8 days. Maya did the math in her head. The rockets would take 5 days to reach the black hole. That gave them only 3 days to set up the collectors and begin transmitting energy. It was an impossible schedule, but they had no choice. "Begin the launches," Maya ordered. The first rocket lifted off with a roar that shook the ground. Then another. Then another. Soon the sky was filled with trails of fire as humanity sent its hopes into space. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to watch. Some prayed. Some cried. Some simply stared at the sky and wondered if they would live to see another month. The Vorathi watched the launches from their observation post on the moon. Ambassador Krenth had been joined by several of his scientists, who were fascinated by what the humans were attempting. They had never seen anything like it. "Their plan has a 17% chance of success," one of the Vorathi scientists said. "The probability is low, but it is not zero. I am surprised." Krenth nodded slowly. We told them it was impossible. We told them no civilization had ever stopped a black hole, but we were thinking of the problem in the wrong way. We were trying to stop the black hole. They are trying to avoid it. It is a simple idea. Why did we never think of it? The scientist considered the question. Perhaps because we have forgotten how to think like young species. We have existed for so long that we have learned to accept limits. Humans have not yet learned what is impossible, so they try everything. Krenth made a decision. Contact our ships in the outer system. Tell them to send all available gravity anchors to Earth. We will give the humans every tool we have. If they are going to attempt the impossible, we should give them the best chance possible. Back on Earth, Maya received the message from the Vorathi. She read it twice before allowing herself to smile. The Vorathi were sending 3,000 additional gravity anchors. With these, the chance of success increased dramatically. The days passed in a blur of activity. More rockets launched. More equipment was built and sent into space. The global economy had stopped functioning in any normal sense. Money meant nothing now. Resources flowed to wherever they were needed. People who had been enemies for generations worked side by side without complaint. On day 36, the first rockets reached the black hole. The images they sent back were terrifying and beautiful. The black hole was a perfect sphere of darkness, surrounded by swirling light. It looked like an eye staring at them from the depths of space. Yuki commanded the deployment of the gravity anchors. It was delicate work. If the anchors activated too close to the black hole, they would be pulled in and destroyed. If they activated too far away, they would not provide enough protection for the energy collectors. The first anchor is in position, Yuki reported, activating now. Everyone in the control center held their breath. The data showed the anchor powering up, creating its bubble of stable space. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then the readings went crazy. The anchor is being pulled in. Someone shouted, "We are losing it." Maya watched as the first anchor crossed the event horizon and vanished. Her heart sank. Had the Vorathi been right all along? Was this truly impossible? Yuki was already analyzing the data. "Wait," she said. "I see what went wrong. The anchor was set to Vorathi parameters, but black holes spin, and this one is spinning faster than we expected. We need to adjust the settings to match the rotation." "Can you do it?" Maya asked. Yuki nodded. "I think so. Give me an hour." The hour felt like a year. Yuki worked frantically, rewriting code and recalculating parameters. The other scientists helped where they could, but most of the work was beyond their expertise. This was new territory for everyone. Finally, Yuki looked up from her screen. "I have it," she said. "The new settings should work. We need to try again." They deployed the second anchor with the updated parameters. This time, when it activated, the readings remained stable. The anchor held its position, fighting against the immense gravity of the black hole. "It is working," James shouted. "The anchor is stable." The control center erupted in cheers, but Maya knew they were not done yet. One anchor was not enough. They needed hundreds to create a network strong enough to protect the energy collectors. "Deploy the rest," she ordered. "We have 6 days left. Let us use every second." The deployment continued around the clock. One by one, gravity anchors took their positions around the black hole. Some failed. Some were lost to unexpected surges in the gravity field, but most of them worked. By day 39, they had a network of 200 anchors creating a stable zone near the accretion disk. Now came the harder part. The energy collectors had to enter the protected zone and begin harvesting power from the matter falling into the black hole. It was like trying to collect water from a volcano without getting burned. One mistake, and the collector would be destroyed. "The first collector is in position," Sarah reported, beginning energy collection. Maya watched the readings. The collector was working. Energy was flowing from the accretion disk into the collection systems. It was more energy than any human device had ever handled. The readings were off the charts. "It is working," James whispered. "We are actually doing it. We are stealing energy from a black hole." Day 40. 2 days remained until the black hole reached its closest point to Earth. The planet needed to be at least 2 million kilometers from its current orbit to survive. Maya did the calculations every hour. They were still short. The energy collectors were working better than expected. 163 of them were now in stable orbit around the black hole, gathering power and transmitting it back to Earth. Giant receivers around the planet captured the energy and fed it to the thrusters that had been built on every continent. "The thrusters are at maximum power," Sarah reported. "We are moving at 4 meters per second. The speed is increasing as we add more collectors." James shook his head. "It is not fast enough. At this rate, we will only move 1.2 million kilometers. We need almost twice that." Maya stared at the numbers. After everything they had done, after the greatest effort in human history, they were still going to fail. The black hole would pass close enough to tear the planet apart. Billions of people would die. "There has to be something more we can do," she said. "We cannot be this close and fail." Yuki looked up from her station. "There is one option, but it is dangerous. The Vorathi told me about it, but they said it should never be tried." "What is it?" Maya asked. Yuki brought up a diagram on the main screen. "The black hole is spinning very fast. That spin creates something called a ergosphere, a region where space itself is being dragged along by the rotation. If we send objects into the ergosphere at the right angle, they can extract rotational energy from the black hole itself. It is called the Penrose process." James leaned forward with interest. "I have read about this. In theory, you could extract enormous amounts of energy, but you would need to get very close to the event horizon. The tidal forces would destroy anything we send." "Unless we reinforce the gravity anchors," Yuki said. "We have been using them at minimum power to preserve their energy cells. If we increase the power, they could protect a collector long enough to enter the ergosphere." "How much more energy could we get?" Maya asked. Yuki hesitated. "Theoretically, we could triple our current output, maybe more. But the collector would only survive for a few hours at most. And if it fails, the resulting energy release could damage the other collectors." Maya thought about the risk. They had come so far. To fail now, so close to success, was unbearable. But if the Penrose process went wrong, they could lose everything. "Do it," she said. "We have no choice." The team worked frantically to modify one of the collectors for the Penrose process. They reinforced its structure, increased the power to its gravity anchors, and programmed a flight path that would take it deep into the ergosphere. It was the most dangerous maneuver ever attempted near a black hole. Around the world, people watched the live feed from the control center. They had followed the story of Operation Phoenix from the beginning. They had seen the launches, celebrated the successes, mourned the failures. Now they held their breath as the modified collector began its descent into the ergosphere. "The collector is entering the ergosphere," Yuki reported. "Gravity anchors are holding. Energy collection is beginning." The readings were astonishing. The energy coming from the ergosphere was 10 times what they had expected. It was like drinking from a fire hose. The receivers on Earth struggled to handle the incoming power. Some of them overloaded and had to be shut down. "We are getting too much energy," Sarah shouted. "The thrusters cannot handle this level of power." "Then build more thrusters," Maya said. "Use anything we have. Factories, power plants, anything that can convert energy into thrust. We have one chance to move far enough, and this is it." Engineers around the world responded to the call. They connected power lines to every available engine. Jet planes on runways fired their engines at full power. Ships in harbors pushed against the docks. Every force that could be applied was applied. The planet shuddered with the combined effort. The The speed is increasing, James reported, his voice shaking with excitement. 10 meters per second, 20, 30, we are accelerating. On the Vorathi observation station, Ambassador Krenth watched in amazement. His scientists had said this was impossible. They had run the calculations thousands of times, but the humans were doing it anyway. They are actually moving their planet, one of his advisors said. This has never been done. In all of galactic history, no species has ever moved a planet to escape a black hole. Krenth nodded slowly. We underestimated them. We saw their primitive technology and assumed they were like the other young species we have encountered. But humans are different. They do not accept limits. They do not know when to stop. Is that a strength or a weakness? The advisor asked. Krenth considered the question. Both, he said finally. It means they will sometimes attempt foolish things and fail, but it also means they will sometimes achieve the impossible. Today, they are achieving the impossible. Back in the control center, Maya monitored the progress with growing hope. The Earth was moving faster now, pushed by energy stolen from the very threat that had endangered it. The irony was not lost on her. They were using the black hole against itself. Warning, Yuki shouted. The collector in the ergosphere is failing. The gravity anchors are reaching their limit. Maya looked at the numbers. They had moved 1.8 million kilometers. They needed at least 2 million to survive. How much longer can the collector last? Maybe 3 hours, Yuki said. Maybe less. The black hole is fighting back. The rotation is slowing and the ergosphere is becoming more unstable. 3 hours. Maya did the math. At their current acceleration, 3 hours would give them another 300,000 kilometers. It might be enough. It would be close, but it might be enough. Keep pushing, she ordered. Every second counts. Do not stop until the collector fails. The hours passed with agonizing slowness. Around the world, people watched the distance counter climb. 1.9 million kilometers, 1.95 million, 1.98 million. The collector was dying, its systems failing one by one, but it kept sending energy. Finally, Yuki spoke. The collector is gone. It crossed the event horizon. Maya looked at the final distance. 2.04 million kilometers. They had made it. Barely, impossibly, but they had made it. Day 42. The black hole passed through the solar system at exactly the time the scientists had predicted. Maya watched from the observation window as it moved across the sky, a dark spot against the stars, surrounded by its ring of captured light. It was the most beautiful and terrible thing she had ever seen. The Earth shook as the gravitational forces pulled at the planet. Earthquakes rumbled across every continent. Tsunamis rose in the oceans, but the planet held together. They had moved just far enough to survive. In the control center, the scientists watched their instruments with anxious eyes. The readings showed stress and strain on the planet's crust, but nothing catastrophic. The tidal forces were strong, but not strong enough to tear them apart. It is passing, James said quietly. The worst is over. Maya let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Around her, the other scientists began to cheer and embrace each other. Some were crying. Some were laughing. All of them looked like they had not slept in months. We did it, Sarah said. We actually did it. We moved the Earth. Maya nodded, but she knew the work was not finished. The Earth was now 2 million kilometers from its original orbit. They would need to move it back, or the climate would change dramatically. The remaining energy collectors around the black hole could help with that, but it would take months of careful work. Outside, the sun was rising. It looked different from this new position, a little larger, a little brighter. But it was still the same sun that had warmed the Earth for billions of years. And now, because of human determination, it would continue to do so for billions more. The Vorathi ambassador requested a meeting that evening. Maya agreed to speak with him by video link. She was too tired to travel, and there was still too much work to do. Dr. Chen, Krenth said when the connection was established. "I wish to offer my congratulations. What you have accomplished is unprecedented in galactic history. No species has ever moved their home planet to escape a black hole. The Council of Civilizations will be studying your methods for centuries." Maya smiled tiredly. "We did not have a choice," she said. "You gave us two options: evacuate a few thousand people or wait to die. We chose a third option." Krenth tilted his head in what Maya had learned was a sign of respect. "That is what fascinates us most about your species. When we face a problem, we look for solutions within known possibilities. When you face a problem, you create new possibilities. It is a fundamental difference in how we think." "Maybe it is because we are young," Maya suggested. "We have not learned yet what is impossible." "Perhaps," Krenth agreed. "Or perhaps impossibility is not a fixed thing. Perhaps it changes depending on who is trying. The Vorathi have existed for millions of years. We have achieved much, but we have also become careful. We have learned to respect limits. You have taught us that limits can be challenged." In the weeks that followed, the world slowly returned to normal. The factories that had built rockets went back to making cars and refrigerators. The scientists who had worked together went back to their separate countries and laboratories. But something had changed in humanity. They had faced extinction and survived. They had done something that no other species had ever done. They knew now that there was nothing they could not accomplish if they worked together. Maya received awards and honors from every nation on Earth. She was invited to speak at the United Nations, where she received a standing ovation that lasted 20 minutes, but she found the attention uncomfortable. She had only done what anyone would do when facing the end of everything they loved. She had fought back. The Vorathi invited a delegation of humans to visit their home world. For the first time, they treated humanity as equals rather than as a young species to be protected. The Council of Civilizations offered Earth full membership, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. 1 year after the black hole passed, Maya returned to the observation window where she had stood when the crisis began. She looked out at the stars and thought about how close they had come to losing everything. The Earth was back in its original orbit now, guided by the energy collectors that still orbited the retreating black hole. Life had returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an experience. James walked up beside her. He was clean-shaven now, and he looked healthier than he had during the crisis. "Thinking about the old days?" he asked. Maya nodded. "I was thinking about what the Vorathi said, about how we create new possibilities instead of accepting limits. I think that is the secret of being human." James smiled. "We are stubborn, too stubborn to know when to give up." "Not stubborn," Maya said. "Determined. There is a difference. Stubborn people keep doing the same thing even when it fails. Determined people keep trying new things until something works." She turned away from the window and walked toward her office. There was a new project waiting for her, something even more ambitious than moving the Earth. The Vorathi had asked for human help in solving problems they had struggled with for centuries. Apparently, they had decided that the species who could steal energy from a black hole might have useful ideas about other things too. In the years that followed, humanity became known throughout the galaxy as the species that refused to accept the impossible. When other civilizations faced problems they could not solve, they came to Earth. And more often than not, human scientists found solutions that the older species had never considered. It turned out that being young and foolish was not a weakness after all. It was a gift. The older species had learned so much that they had forgotten how to learn new things. They had discovered so many limits that they had stopped looking for ways around them. Humans had no such burdens. They approached every problem with fresh eyes and open minds. The black hole that had nearly destroyed Earth became a symbol of human determination. The energy collectors still orbited it, now part of a permanent installation that provided power to colonies throughout the solar system. What had been a threat was now a resource. What had been a problem was now a solution. That was the human way. When the universe threw something terrible at them, they found a way to turn it into something useful. When they faced death, they found a way to live. When they encountered the impossible, they made it possible. And that, more than any technology or weapon or resource, was why the rest of the galaxy had come to respect them. Humans did not give up. Humans did not accept defeat. Humans kept fighting, kept thinking, kept trying until they found a way to win. On the anniversary of the black hole's passage, Maya gave a speech to the people of Earth. She stood in front of a crowd of millions, with billions more watching on screens around the world. Behind her was a holographic image of the black hole, still visible in the distant reaches of the solar system. 1 year ago, she said, we faced the end of our world. The wisest species in the galaxy told us there was nothing we could do. They offered to save a few thousand of us while the rest died. They expected us to accept our fate. She paused and looked out at the crowd. They did not know us very well. They did not understand what it means to be human. We are not a species that accepts fate. We are not a species that gives up. When someone tells us something is impossible, we take it as a challenge. The crowd cheered. Maya waited for them to quiet before continuing. Today, we are still here. Our planet is still here. And the black hole that tried to destroy us is now providing power for our colonies. We took the thing that tried to kill us and made it work for us. That is what humans do. She raised her hand toward the sky. Out there in the darkness between stars, there are countless more challenges waiting for us. Some of them may seem as impossible as the black hole once did. But now we know something that we did not know before. We know that impossible is just a word. It is not a fact. It is an opinion, and opinions can be changed. The speech ended to thunderous applause. People around the world celebrated late into the night. They had survived. They had triumphed. They had proven that humanity was something special in a universe full of ancient, powerful civilizations. And somewhere in the control center where it had all begun, Maya sat alone and looked at the stars. She thought about all the problems that still needed solving, all the challenges that still lay ahead. And she smiled, because no matter what the universe threw at them, she knew that humans would find a way. They always did. They always would. That was the lesson of the black hole. Not that humans were lucky or clever or brave, though they were all of those things. The real lesson was simpler than that. Humans were survivors. They had crawled out of the mud, learned to walk upright, built cities and rockets and starships. And when a black hole came to destroy them, they moved their entire planet out of the way. Because that is what humans do. They survive, they adapt, they overcome. And no matter how dark the universe gets, they find a way to bring the light.